Well, hello and welcome to More to the Story with Molly White. I'm so glad you joined me again today for, okay, Mary, I'm going to say it, another great episode. I just can't help it because I just love them all. And I love all the guests that we've had on. And today we're going to have another guest that I've known for many, many years. She's been involved with Operation Outcry as well. And of course, she's going to be sharing her testimony and then how God brings us from our pain, right? That's the subtitle to
Yeah.
my because it's so important. Once we go through a traumatic experience like abortion and go through healing, it's important that we do something with that healing, right, Mary?
Yes, absolutely.
And so that's why we have this podcast to, not only expose the wicked deeds of the abortion industry, how it hurts women and men and families, but the importance of going through abortion recovery and healing and doing something about it, doing something with that. So why don't you go ahead and talk to our audience and then we'll introduce our guest.
Okay. Well, yes, if you're listening, I want you to know that it's possible today that you would find something that causes you an emotional reaction. We will have a report or an experience of abortion today. And if you find yourself reacting to that, we consider that an invitation to another level of healing. And you can call 866-482-5433 for help, or you can call 866-721-7881. Either one of those would have people to help you. And we really would encourage you to do that. If you have an emotional reaction, we call that a trigger. If that happens, please do that today. Thank you. Thank you,
Amen.
Mom.
Thank you, Mary, because that's important. If you're having some emotional responses to a testimony, the Lord is trying to say, hey, there's something going on that I'd like to heal you from. And that's going to be my segue into introducing our Georgia Peach today, Tina Brock. Welcome, Tina.
Hello there.
I'm so glad you joined us. Tina and I go way back, and that may come up in her testimony about getting involved with Operation Outcry. But Tina lives in Georgia. She's been very, very powerful and very active with her abortion story and the healing that came from it, and how we talked about earlier that it's important to do something with our healing, right, and our story. So, Tina, why don't you just tell us some about your abortion story, and then we'll go from there.
Well, thank you for having me, Molly and Mary. I recently had been asked at church to give a stewardship testimony, or he asked for stewardship testimonies, and I just jumped at the opportunity to share what God's doing through me and with me, and I just love doing life with him. So, yeah, my story began when I had graduated high school in 1985. Shortly after graduating, I was pregnant, scared to death. Unfortunately, went down that road to Atlanta, Georgia, and had my abortion there. I believe I was around 9 weeks pregnant, and that led me to a life of promiscuity and things like that. I tried to tuck it in the back of my mind and forget about it. And as we all know, you don't forget about those things. But later on, as my relationship with Christ grew, I knew I needed healing, and I accepted God's forgiveness. I learned about a pregnancy center in the county, Jackson County, where I lived in, called Hope Resource. And a friend and I were on the phone late one night, and she was talking about it. You need to go and see them, And I'm like, okay, I don't know what a pregnancy center does, but I'll go. And went there and found out they offered a Bible study called Forgiven and Set Free. And so I jumped at the opportunity to go through that Bible study. And it's funny, I tell the story, and one of the chapters in the study is the names of God. And I was like, what in the world does the names of God got to do with my abortion? But that winded up being one of my most favorite chapters in that healing journey. And so from that, and as my relationship with Christ grew, I knew we needed this in the county, pregnancy center in the county where I was. So I looked in and got in touch with the people from Toccoa Life who had been trying to get a pregnancy center in Franklin County for 18 years. And at that time, it had been 18 years since I'd had my abortion. And so, long story short on that, we moved in with another ministry, 600 square feet. My motto was little is much when God is in it. We called
We have
ourselves at first Franklin Life Crisis Pregnancy Center because I talked to other women and friends who'd had abortion, and they said, I was in a crisis. A lot of pregnancy centers call ourselves care centers today and things in the name. So today we are Franklin Life Pregnancy Resource Center, and we are a resource center, and we want to be there to help other women not choose the same road. And if they do, we're there to love on them and not judge them. So we have the Mommy Mall, we have all of the Earn While You Learn programs. And I also answer an international helpline. We say it's international, it's Concepts of Truth
Well, let's
that
not.
birth.
Let's.
Okay.
Sorry, Tina, hate to interrupt, but let's not go too fast through here. Let's go back and backtrack a little bit.
Yeah, give
Um,
y'all time to ask questions. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So your testimony, you were how old when you had your abortion?
I was 18, and I feel like I was old enough to know better, but,
Yeah.
God knew I was gonna make that decision, and he knew what I was gonna be doing with it today, and just recently I spoke, and I shared, how Zell Miller changed his mind when he seen the women. I don't know if y'all were aware of that, but they say Zell Miller changed his mind on abortion when he seen the women holding the "I regret my abortion" signs. That made an impact on him. And I have really thought long and hard, and I don't want to say that I regret my abortion. I regret that it took the life of my baby, but had I not went through that, I would not be doing what I'm doing today and see so many other women set free, and helping other women choose life. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like, God brings purpose from our pain.
Yeah.
It's not the route that we really wanted to take, but it's God is using it for life-saving measures, right, Mary?
That's exactly right. I'm glad you mentioned that, Molly. That's good.
So when I want to just kind of go back because I kind of like to highlight these things on our podcast because I want our listeners and our viewers to understand the abortion industry is a predatory industry and they're not there to help you have a baby. They're not there to help you walk through a crisis unless the end result is abortion. And they think that's the solve all problems to everything. But was it a Planned Parenthood or was it an independent abortion clinic?
I believe the name of it was the Surgery Center on Spring Street in Atlanta. It has since moved. I remember going back there to sidewalk counsel later in life, and yeah. So
And so, did they give you all the information you needed to make an informed decision on having this abortion, or were you already your mindset already there, and you were going to do it no matter what?
well, I had the advice I'd gotten, just get the abortion, you'll forget about it, and all. And I remember them giving me papers to sign. I think it was just I really can't explain. I think God protected me from a lot of the details. I do remember, signing the papers, and I do remember on the table, the nurse holding my hand and telling me it would be over soon. And, if I could see her today, I'd tell her it's never over. And I felt like I remembered during the experience that I wanted to know if it was a boy or girl, and I believe without a shadow of a doubt mine was a boy after going through the forgiven and set free and praying, and asking God about that. He showed me, and I named my baby Wayne Paul. That's not a name that I would have chose on earth, but it was after a pastor that was preaching when I know that I know that I know, and Paul in the Bible, where he was persecuting Christians when he was, under a different name, and God did a work in him. Paul's one of my favorite in the Bible.
Yes. Well, Mary, I know you're not a medical attorney, Mary, and I'm sure you've heard many stories, and I know we all had to sign some kind of documents in order to have the abortion procedure. But is there anything wrong with the way they go about it? They don't really read over the information. They don't give you time to read over the information. I mean, would you consider that kind of deceptive or malpractice?
Well, Molly, you raise a good question because I think one of the questions we've been having about women that face abortion is about informed consent. Are they really informed? Do they really understand what's happening? And, we've had former guests that talked about drugging the women before they asked them to sign the paper. So it's interesting, Tina. I don't know if that was your experience, but it does seem like there's some trickery and deception involved. But if this is all such a good thing, why do we have to trick women or sort of trap them into signing?
Absolutely. That's a good point. If it was a good thing, then why would we have to uh, not disclose the truth about fetal development or the risks of abortion, or even give a woman chance to contemplate and think about it and think of their other options? And so when you mentioned that, Tina, about signing some documents, you didn't
No,
know
and
what.
I felt alone when I was doing it. My mom and my sister were with me, but they weren't, I don't believe at that point they were in the room with me. And I felt alone as I was, going through that.
And that's another thing. They want to isolate you from anyone who may be a support system for you, or someone say, we need to think about this, or anyone that might discourage you from having the abortion. They want to separate you from them. So, and I'm sorry to elaborate on this, but I just feel it's important for our listeners and our viewers to understand. This is not something that women go in, they're told everything, they need to know, women's right to know any kind of medical procedure, which I've had several this past year. Boy, I couldn't do anything unless I had all the information there was. Ask questions, think about it. Then before you go into surgery, then you sign your documents. So that's just kind of what I wanted to elaborate. The abortion industry does not do that. Okay, so let's move ahead. So how many years did it go between when you had your abortion before you felt the call, to go through abortion recovery?
Well, I was 18 and I got married the first time that was 85 when I had the abortion. It was about 89 and 90. So it was several years later. It's hard to believe now it's been over, 20 something, 30 years. It was after I got into church and really think, and that's actually when I really dedicated my life to the Lord and accepted Christ and knew that I needed healing from that. But it still was a couple of let's see, I was married the first time like 4 years, and it was when I married my husband that I'm married to now. It was during that time that I went through that leads me back to the part of the testimony. I went to a precept upon precept. I was going to a Bible study called Precept Upon Precept with Kay Arthur with my church at the time. And I asked, okay, God, what do you want to do with my life? And that's kind of a scary question because you don't ever know what he's going to say. So that's where it really began, and he led me down the pro-life journey where I went to the pregnancy center and learned, and that's where it really started. I started after finding and going through the Bible study and the healing. That's when I got in touch, and I probably met you a little bit around that time and started traveling.
Yeah, when you heard. Now, how did you hear about Operation Outcry?
Our longtime friend Diane Denaldi, who is with the Heavenly Father now, she was a board member of the pregnancy center I was working at.
Okay, all right, and that's how you heard about Operation Outcry, and got involved. You were a state leader, weren't you, in Georgia?
Myself and Julie,
So then you talked about getting involved and starting even a pregnancy resource center there, right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
abortion recovery. And I wanted you to kind of, Mary, unless you want to jump in before, ask her this about.
I guess the one question I have, thank you, Molly, was did you sign a declaration for Operation Outcry? Did you complete one of those?
yes, that was exciting. We wrote out our stories and then they turned into the declarations, and mine was one of was it 4,000 and something that Alan had that went before the Supreme Court. So, yes.
Believe it went there many times, actually. So, yeah, let's talk a little bit about what this declaration is. And from your perspective, Tina, when you found out about it, um, was it very helpful for you in your healing process, or, what was the motivation to fill out one?
I believe it did help with the healing. It helped me be honest and say abortion was murder. It wasn't just that it took the life of my baby, and it also left a lot of women hurting. So to be able, and I remember that, to be able to say, abortion's murder, and why are we allowing, the murder of innocent babies in the womb if abortion is murder, and it is. So it was part of, I believe, part of my healing, and also to help collect those from other women, being at the pregnancy center to help try to collect those from other women who have been hurt by abortion.
And Mary, why do we collect those declarations?
Well, we collect those because we use those in briefs around the country, most recently in Louisiana, who is fighting the chemical abortion bill and the removal of protections for women and girls. And so we file it in not just the U.S. Supreme Court, but in other cases around the country. So, Tina, your story is still being utilized in the amicus briefs. And if anyone is out there and you have abortion in your past and you've connected the dots of the harm that it has brought, we just invite you to go to operationoutcry.org and complete a declaration, and you can join Tina and Molly and me and others around, and over 4,000 others who are around the country who are connecting the dots. Thank you. Thank you, Molly.
Thank you, Mary, because it's so important that our lawmakers and judges and attorneys know how abortion is impacting women, because they only hear one side, my body, my choice. That's all they hear. They don't hear how that choice affects our lives forever and ever. And so it's very, very important. Your story is important, and we need that story. God needs that story to help, prevent other women from going down that route and being hurt like us. I think I've mentioned this before. We welcome women who've been hurt by abortion to help them go through abortion recovery. We pray that women don't go that route. Women who've had abortions have a special bond, especially those who've gone through recovery, and God's using us. And it's a nice sisterhood, but we don't want anybody else to join the sisterhood.
Right.
It's not that we're being selfish, it's because we don't want you to go through that trauma that we had to walk through, to get to this point. So it's always best to choose life for your baby. So let's move on and to talk a little bit about the International Helpline. This is another door that God opened for you to help women and men who are in a crisis situation. So how did you get involved with that?
Well, I had it in my mind, and I put it off for a long, long time. And that final email from Dale, I got an email from Dale, Millie's husband, and I don't know. I was working in the yard that day. I think I even found a baby rabbit out there and stuff. And that was the day that I was ready to follow through with that, because in the pregnancy center, I was able, excuse me, able to lead some women through the Forgiven and Set Free in the Bible study. And one of my favorites was two preachers' wives. And it was just rewarding to watch them blossom from healing, from never talking about it, never telling their kids, and it being such a stark secret, to coming back the next meeting and telling me how much they had. So just helping women find healing meant so much to me. So I knew it was time, and I contacted Dale and said, I'm ready. And we got all the paperwork done. I was worried that I was going to have to do, I think they have a journey. They have one called Journey that they do, that Millie had, one of the ladies with Millie created. I was confident with the Forgiven and Set Free, and it was a requirement as long as you had went through one of the healing studies that you could be a part of the helpline. And it's been a rewarding experience with the ladies. As you know, they merged, so I don't get to talk to Millie as much, but the ladies on there, oh my goodness, I just love them to pieces.
Are you talking about
And
the volunteers?
yeah, yes, the consultants are the helpline staff. They are precious. And we even have life coaching available. There's a couple of ladies that'll do life coaching. Since they merged, we don't just get women or men who have thought about abortion or who have had abortion. I'm a little more confident and feel more comfortable when I get those calls than some of them that I am getting today, which could be other topics. But if you want it, I can share with the helpline. You get calls where women are in a fetal position, or you'll answer and they're crying. Something may have triggered them that day. and they call. Some of them just want to either to talk or want you to pray with them. And if I may, I would like to share one about the abortion pill. That's one that really sticks out to me. I got that call. It was on a Sunday, and the girl had took the abortion pill on the Saturday, and she had gotten the shower, and she said, I was not expecting to see what I saw. And I said, honey, what did you do? She said, well, I called my boyfriend. He came home from work. And she said, I said, what did you do then? And she said, well, we knew it wasn't trash, so we didn't throw it away and we didn't flush it. I said, and she said, we took it and we buried it. We said a prayer. We got a flower and we prayed. And I said, well, honey, it sounds like you did the best thing you could possibly do. And you have done the first step in beginning to heal by calling this helpline. And with the helpline, we try to find pregnancy centers or places in their area that offer abortion healing services or abortion recovery and put them in touch with them. And or if they want to do the journey one that's available through Concepts of Truth, they can do that. That one was probably one of my most memorable and hard ones.
And
It was so hard,
I'm
but she
sure
had hope.
I'm sure it is hard to listen to someone who's either going through that experience or just completed the abortion because they're told it's just a clump of cells, right, Mary?
Mhm.
That's right. We hear it
That's what
over and
I was
over,
told.
don't we?
And you were calling it it. What did she see?
She's seen the sack with the baby inside.
So she saw
Yeah.
her baby.
Yeah,
Yes.
she's seen the egg. It was probably a egg size of an egg, a hen egg or something, Golf bought a hen egg. She said, "I seen it. It was fully there." And she couldn't unsee what she saw, and she was just devastated. And even had a little girl, and she said, "I had to go back inside with my little girl after they had got the flower and prayed, and it traumatized her."
Very traumatizing. And that's why we want to use those kind of stories and any kind of stories. If you've had a chemical abortion and have gone through abortion recovery, if you haven't, we encourage you to do so. But these stories are important because women are being lied to. They're being lied to, or they're ordering the drug online and not getting any information whatsoever, except pill 1 and pill 2 or whatever. And then they're left facing the consequences of what's happening and happened to their body. I mean, the first drug kills the baby, deprives them of nutrients, right, Mary? And
Yes.
the second drug, which is normally it's like when you are induced into labor, I think they use about 15 to 20 cc's of mifepristone.
Misoprostol.
I always get that word mixed up. But with the chemical abortion, it's 80 cc's. It's so much more and higher of a dosage. And that drug causes you to go into labor. And it's an extreme hard labor. And they're not told that. They're not even prepared for what they're about to experience. And most of the time, they're home alone, right, Tina?
Yes, and Molly, also, we're able to, if we have a call of a girl that has just taken that, we can give them the abortion reversal number. And if I'm right, what, over 3,000 babies have been saved because of the abortion reversal? So, yeah.
Why don't you talk about that a minute, Mary?
Yes, yes. As Tina mentioned, thank you, Molly. As Tina mentioned, if you have taken that first abortion pill, which is mifepristone or mifeprex, if you've taken that and you immediately experience regret, you can get a hold of the Abortion Pill Rescue Network, and we probably could have that phone number available. But
And
once you call them, they will get you in touch with a doctor where you can get the prescription. It's just progesterone to offset the progesterone blocking that first pill does, and it'll begin to reverse that process. And you have a good likelihood of rescuing your baby from that abortion and from death if you take that second pill, if you take the reversal pill in close proximity to the first one, hopefully within 24 hours or even 48, but definitely before you took that next pill or set of pills.
yes, thank you,
Thanks,
Mary.
Molly.
And I think it's abortionreversal.com or abortionreversal.org, but we'll have it on the screen here. So we only have a few minutes left, Tina, and I'm sorry about that. And you've made some great comments that I loved, like doing life with God. I love that. It's so much better to do life with God than try to trudge through life without Him. And then we wanted you really, I think, in closing, because you talked about having some pastor wives in one of your abortion recovery groups, the Forgiven and Set Free. And I kind of wanted you, because you've had that experience with them, to talk to either a woman who's in church and she's keeping this deep, dark secret, or she's the pastor's
Yes.
wife or the pastor's daughter or youth minister, whoever. She's listening. She's kept this secret from a long time and she's living in, secrecy makes us sick, and secrecy is even occultish. But we want her to know that God even forgives the sin of abortion and she can be set free from that. So I want you to talk to that particular woman and encourage her.
I would say, God took an ugly decision in my life and made something beautiful. And he can do that for you. He wants us. And as I tell each caller, he doesn't want us to live in that regret. And we can't change the decision we made, but we can choose hope. And that's what he has, a future of hope for us. He wants us, like, I didn't know what he would be doing with me after my abortion, but he knew. And so he can use your abortion, doing a pregnancy resource center, building a homeless shelter, answering an international helpline. You never know who the Lord is going to send across your path and you be able to help. So if you have that in your past, don't be ashamed of it. Don't be ashamed of it. 1 out of every 3 to 4 women had an abortion, have chose that. But we don't have to live in that pain and regret, because there's hope and healing with Jesus Christ. And what he's done for so many of us ladies, I know that Molly knows, he has given us a freedom, a hope for a future. And he's used our stories to help others find healing, and he'll do the same for you.
Amen. I was just thinking, boy, you get a healed pastor's wife, you get a healed youth minister's wife in that church. Whoo! You talk about transformational over the whole entire church. It's incredible.
Yes.
So I want to close with this. I want you, and thank you, Tina, for joining us today. So good to see you again.
Thank
And it's
you.
always incredible to see how God uses redeemed. But I want you to give the Concepts of Truth International, or the national helpline number, to our audience.
Okay, the international helpline with Concepts of Truth is 866-482 5433. 866-482-LIFE.
Amen. Thank you, Tina, and thank you, Mary, and thank you all for joining us today. I hope you share this video with everyone that you know. Please like and comment, and send us any questions you might have or any comments. But thank you for joining us at More to the Story with Molly White, and we look forward to seeing you again next time. God bless you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Tina and Molly.
Thank you.